This program is about significance. My name is Jeff Gould. I'm here with Jim Rieffenberger. Some of the more basic words we have are hardest to describe. Significance might be one of those words. And so, Jim Rieffenberger, you did this to me a couple of podcasts ago, so it's time to get my revenge. Let me flip the script on you. What does significance mean to you?
Well, I'm going to answer that question outside of myself and the people that I've seen live it or experience it. I want you to picture, if you're listening, like look around your influence of people around you, family, friends, people you see regularly to some degree. There's someone in that group that always has a smile and a sense of just being present. I think those are two very common characteristics of someone experiencing significance. They have confidence. They have settled on their self-worth. They're not questioning it. They've accepted who they are, and they are in a better place. Now, someone who goes through the program, I believe, what I can see on the other side of the screen or face to face, is that when they got through the workbook and they know what that X looks like, the vision, the treasure map, there's such peace that says, kind of like when you leave the financial planner's office and say, hey, we finally set up that stuff for the kids. We finally have all the paperwork, insurance, trust, whatever. It's kind of tidied up to I don't feel like I'm going to regret this. So there's that sense there.
Are they a certain age?
No, this is the fun part about significance is you might as well start experiencing it sooner than later. I do think we go in stages of life where we know we're going into the next stage, and it raises our urgency to know this. Early on, the first few steps of significance, I see significance coming in a state of awareness. They're aware of themselves for the first time in a while, what their gifts are, what really kind of falls into play. They start to mention how they want to experience life, and they start to put a pen to paper.
With some definite things, not just some kind of haphazard things.
Yes.
Okay.
They have a sense of urgency about knowing what they're going to go get and get moving a little bit. And that's what we call energy in this cycle. And the one that I'm just going to say that they probably don't recognize it, I know this as a coach. When you're doing things alone, can you identify where there's no progress? And where there's no progress in your life, that is tough. So they're seeing progress.
And are they able to see that with just your help, or do they notice it in themselves?
It's a little bit of both. I think as they go through the steps, it reaffirms maybe what they either thought of themselves or redirects them into a better awareness. There's one particular gal that I'm going to mention that I thought was interesting. So she looked through her work and thought she needed to do something different. And that's where the original angle came. She did look at something different.
Is
it
it
raised her
a
self-worth.
different employer altogether, or just something?
Yes.
A different employer. Okay. All right.
And so what happened there was I was under the assumption that that's probably what she's going to do. Then she's moving into significance there. Then the employer called her and said, you can't go. And so did the president. You can't go. We can't lose you. I saw a look of mixed, like, do I want to go back to this? What happened from our discussion at that point, though, was she still can make any decision she wants. I says, but before you go back, I want you to go to them and explain to them the roles you're in. I want you to explain that you probably haven't seen, if you have seen, you've missed my gifts. this is what I'm really good at, and this is where you could really use me. And I want you to go back at it like it's a new job, and I want you to present yourself in your best light. And so she did this. They stepped back and agreed and changed her position and then are starting to use her. So did
Well, that's a
she or
great
I know
story.
that that's how God was going to work? No, I just know that that has now brought significance back into work.
Hmm. Well, that's a great story.
Yeah. And just yesterday, Jeff, one of our new customers who did his first time with me doing his talent code, he's going to receive his significant kit here soon to get started. A few questions I asked, he says, I'm excited to get this figured out, my transition time in a couple of years till I retire. Because I'm looking forward to getting clear on my roadmap. And I said, okay. And I said, I looked all over the place. I wasn't able to get the roadmap on my own. I was looking for I got stuck in my own head. And you'd think, but then I found significance. I said, I think this is going to help me get that map. So I'm going to add to anybody listening to this, some of the things that you might not be realizing you're missing from actually participating in the class. We don't do really well in our own space without the accountability, kind of like if you take a course or a class. Just another person that just started said to me, I'm taking online classes. And she said, I think I'm not enjoying it because I'm not learning through interacting with someone. I feel like I'm just, am I getting any better at this? And I said, I agree. It's like learning and teaching comes from interaction. So we're going to have that. Discerning things is a thing that's my job, but boy, it helps when you feel like you got someone to talk about and discern things with. Just the accountability of having someone invested or interested in what you're going to do with your life is great.
Well, Jim, let me just talk a little bit about this because when we started in this project, you and I, this was a passion of ours, and there are some cynical people in the world. And one of them said, "Listen, this is what we know. We know that everybody that like 80% of the books that are bought are never read, and 80% of the decision to buy a book is what the title of the book is. So if you want to make money, just come up with a really good book title." What, which is true. I'm sure you can make a lot of money, but we did not want to make a lot of money. We wanted to help people. And we realized that if we gave them just a book, there is no guarantee they would read the book. If we did just these programs, these podcasts, etc., there's no guarantee that they would follow through with it. They would listen to it and say, I hear what they're saying. So what we decided to do was we would have this thing that you could watch videos, listen to. You would have a book that you could read with short little samples in it. You could write down some simple answers, but then you could wheel in front of a guy like you and say, and you would say, now, what about this particular question? What's going on with this question? And now they have now it's kind of like the best of everything because it's not like a weekend retreat. And how many of these have I been to? You get in the car on the way, man, that was great. That was awesome. And I forgot everything they said on the way home, right? It's gone. It was too much. It was too much in too short a period of time. We took all of that and spread it out and put it in your hands and we put maps in so you can touch it and feel it and hold it and circle it. And now you got something that works.
I'll give you one more story, just another person on our list of people, but a friend of ours that we both know called me and said, my goddaughter, I want to help her, and I'm going to ask you to spend a little time with her.
Hmm.
So she's 26.
Hmm.
She has a degree with a couple languages, Spanish, German, was working at a hotel.
Mm.
The first question I asked was, okay, so, I mean, she doesn't feel like she's using that degree. And I said, and then I said, was there other ways that you thought you might, well, she thought, well, should I maybe be a teacher? I said, that's fair. So we went through a few steps: talent code, spiritual gifts, passions. She's a developer, but to be a teacher, I mean, I know this enough, because you and I are teachers, but you have to be encouraging, you have to have teaching, those kind of things. Those weren't her giftings.
Hmm.
So hers were visionary and organization,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a developer. So I brought up the idea to her that, have you ever thought about jobs that have more of those pieces in them, like project management, things like that? I asked her to use her Grow Journal and then get going on this. She took it to heart, jumped on that, called her neighbor who's in project management. She texted me just last week and said, we had a 2-hour conversation. I have over 22 different job and contacts to reach out to just to consider these fields. The last thing I said to her is, if you are using your gifts and no one notices your gifts where you work, that's a sad story. Good people notice people and their gifts and put them in there as soon as they can. So then go find a place that will see you for what you have and then use you for what you are. And that's okay.
Well, that was a good answer to the question, Jim. I do appreciate your time. We got to let you go. We have other podcasts to get to, other episodes. So we'll let our listeners go. We always try to keep these fairly short because they have lives as well. And really, a lot of what we're doing is not just me talking to them or you talking to them. It's them thinking about what we said and just allowing that to sink in and maybe change a little bit of their choices in the day ahead. And that's certainly what we want to do. If you, by the way, you have a specific question, just reach out to us. We're available, and we'll be happy to answer any question you have. It's would be an honor. So until we meet, I'm Jeff Gould.
I'm Jim Rieffenberger.
God bless.